I want to get to the coaching carousel because it continues to spin, baby. We're still working on getting Teresa Witherspoon on this coaching carousel. I'm going to have a little chat with our graphics department on that one. But yesterday, the Celtics agreed to hire Nets assistant Ime Udoka as their next coach. Prior to his role as an assistant for Steve Nash this season, Udoka spent 1 season with the Sixers, 7 years under Greg Popovich with the Spurs. Then today, Rick Carlisle told our Tim McMahon he has agreed to a 4-year deal to become the next coach of the Indiana Pacers. The deal worth $29 million plus incentives, sources said. That leaves 5 head coach vacancies at the moment. And now joining us to discuss all matters of coaching vacancies, our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. So glad to actually have you in the building, my friend. This is lovely after a year and a half. What can you tell us about the hires both in Boston and in Indiana?
Well, Ime Udoka, I think the relationships and the kind of players he had coached in San Antonio, you know, Kawhi Leonard certainly on the back end of it, Philadelphia, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and then in Brooklyn with the group they had this year. Experience not just coaching elite players, but building relationships with them. He's going to have to do that in Boston, certainly with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. He's got 2 All-Stars under 25 years old. And, you know, I think Brad Stevens really liked the varied experiences he's had. 3 different organizations, obviously played in the league. But I think for that process, Boston was really a job that I think everybody who was in the candidate market looked at that Boston job and saw, you know, were really excited about it, especially because of the great young talent they had there. But Udoka separated himself early in that process, and he was certainly a popular choice among their key players who had played under him with Team USA, with Greg Popovich in the Worlds in 2019. 3 of their returning players, you know, all had a lot of great things to say about him.
What do you think, former Boston Celtic, of the hire?
You know what? I actually love it, to be honest. Yeah, I actually love it. And here's why, right? When you look at Udoka and you look at what all he has done with his playing career, playing with Hall of Famers like Tim Duncan, and then going into his coaching career, being the assistant of one of the greatest of all time, and Greg Popovich. So my thing is, it's all about managing egos, right? And you have 2 young rising superstars in my eyes, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's your focal point. And you got to bring a guy in there that they can relate to. And I feel like that's a perfect fit to me because he's a guy that's going to go in there. He's going to be able to hold them accountable. They have to respect him because he's been around greats. He's coached greats. He's played with greats. There's nothing you could tell him.
What I like about this is when you bring in coaches that have learned how to build relationships with great players, but for themselves, they're more role players. It allows them to connect with the guys. Like, these are the sacrifices that I'm asking of you because they've been asked of me before. You look at Tyronn Lue. He's been on that side, played with great players, but was also a role player. Monty Williams played with great players, but was also a role player. Because as much as it is reaching your stars, we saw that with the Clippers last year. They were like, well, you know, the role players versus the star treatment and a lot of that back and forth. You got to be able to connect, not just with the star players, and he has that ability, but also to connect with the rest of the team, making sure they're understanding why you sacrifice.
It's going to be really fascinating to see everything that happens with that Celtics team, right? First time for Brad Stevens in the front office. I do want to get to Indiana, though.
Right.
I asked producer Steve today for some video of young Rick Carlisle in his first stint as head coach of the Pacers, but the hair was different, all of that stuff. I don't know if we'll see that in a minute, but there we go. Look at that, young Rick.
Nice little coif right there.
Right? So nice.
That's what happens with coaching in the NBA will do to you.
You will, yes. How did Rick end up back where he once began, as you say?
Yeah, this was, I talked to Kevin Pritchard, their president, today, and just knowing that day one, Rick Carlisle commands respect in that organization, and it brings respect back to the head coaching position because they lost it this year with Nate Borkman after they let go of Nate McMillan the year before. And I think for Indiana, you know, a roster that is a good roster. Is this a championship roster? No. But is this a roster that you can see winning around in Eastern Conference playoffs with the right coach? Yes. And I think, you know, Kevin Pritchard, you know, he still leans on Larry Bird and Donnie Walsh and those guys who were there in the front office prior to him and still kind of serve as consultants. They were all for this, and Herb Simon, their owner, who had Rick in there previously. And I think especially, and then it's $7 million a year. I think $7 million plus, as Tim McMahon reported. think it's Indiana's message that we're serious. We are trying to win. And listen, Rick Carlisle is probably, good chance he might be a Hall of Fame coach someday. He's won a championship. There weren't really any coaches out in the marketplace with that pedigree. And when Rick wanted to come back, they worked here in the last few days to get this done.
Now, Rick, at the end of that interview with Tim McMahon, said that he hopes Jason Kidd gets the Dallas job that he just vacated. I know that Portland is also a hot coaching spot. What do you think of where they may end up in their coaching search, and what's going to happen in Dallas as well?
Well, Mark Cuban says he's going to hire a president, general manager first, and then do a coaching search. I'm not sure they're going to take Rick Carlisle's advice on who the next coach is there. I think they might like to talk to Luka Doncic, see how he feels.
Right.
Certainly internally about Jamal Mosley, who's going to be a candidate for this job. Portland, they've done second interviews now with Chauncey Billups, Mike D'Antoni, Becky Hammon on Monday. And so I think more so than the other job openings, I think Portland's probably closer to getting to a potential decision. But I think certainly Mike D'Antoni, Chauncey Billups figure prominently in that search, and Becky Hammon.
This, by the way, is an amazing graphic because it's like player, star, star, star for the Magic.
2 first-round picks.
2 picks. That's what they've got going on, absolutely. Well, I'm going to keep campaigning for Teresa Witherspoon for the New Orleans job. I will be happy to be on my own island there, but I don't think I am. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.